So it now gives me great pleasure to hand the meeting over to Scott L. from Nashville, Tennessee, who will be taking us on a journey through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous as outlined in the big book.
Thank you, Chanel. Hi, you guys. My name's Scott Lee. I'm alcoholic. I got a terribly bad case of it. And I'm so grateful for this chance to treat it with you fine people. Gee, I love us. Aren't we fascinating people? I love to open anything I do with a quote from Lois Wilson, who said in the moment of silence, she invited God to the meeting. Now, just in case you don't have a God, or maybe you got here like I did, terrified that there might be a God. If that's your situation, borrow mine. Recommend him very highly. He's got a great sense of humor. You can address him as a God of Scott's limited understanding. So borrow my God if you don't have one that's working for you. And let's take a moment and all of us literally invite God to the meeting. I'll meet you back here. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. I should tell you also, I have a central nervous system disorder. It causes my hands to shake, and it causes me to do an involuntary negative head shake. I'm not even aware when it happens. So it may look like I disagree with what I'm saying. I don't. I may later because I'm still learning. But don't trust the head shakes if you see them. And I want to start out by violating a rule and cross-talking. Agatha, don't think of that as your first rehab. That was your rehab. Once enough. I've been doing this a long time. I would say about half the people I know with long-term recovery are sober since their first meeting. So a better mindset is that was your rehab and that's enough. If you get in the middle of what we're doing, that'll be enough. It was for me. I'm sober since a couple of days before my first AA meeting. I want to start in Roman numeral 22, XXII, forward to the third edition, with what I believe is the most important phrase in the entire book. It sets up the whole of what I'm going to do for this hour. In the third paragraph, Roman numeral 22, it says, basic principles of the AA program, it appears, hold good for individuals with many different lifestyles, just as the program has brought recovery to those many different nationalities. Here comes the phrase, the 12 steps that summarize the program. Hear the term program all the time. The 12 steps summarize the program. My sponsor said if the steps on the wall were the whole program, we'd have a pamphlet instead of a book. But that's the cliff notes. And that the steps are not part of the program. They are the program. No steps, no program. My favorite definition of insanity is thinking you're in a 12-step program and not actually taking all 12. No offense, we bury too many. But I would propose if you haven't taken all 12, you're not in a 12-step program. You're spending some time listening to a guy like me, you need some kind of help. You might want to start there. I want to go rather quickly through the steps. And my mission here is not to be thorough. My mission is to demystify the steps for those who haven't taken them and to maybe encourage you to go ahead and take them, to take away some of your fear. And that's what I hope I'm going to do. Page 30 says, the idea that someday, somehow, he will control and enjoy his drinking is a great obsession of every abnormal drinker. That's my story. Control and enjoy. There were times when I could control it. I did not enjoy it. When I enjoyed it, I was out of control. I could never do them at the same time. It also says on the same page, characterized by countless vain attempts to prove he could drink like other people. Yeah, that's my story. And sometimes I could early on. Later, I couldn't. I didn't notice when that changed. But step one is 2 parts. And I'm going to go to the short form of the step on page 59. I admit I'm powerless over alcohol. That means a couple of things to me. It means the more I drink, the thirstier I get. And I can't not start again. I have a tendency to quit drinking forever. I'm a nose puker. I can see about half of you. Raise your hand if you ever puked out your nose. Anybody nose puke? Put them up. I see some. Olaf, I know about you. Yeah. All right. So who quit forever? If you puked out your nose, put them back up. I know it didn't work. You wouldn't be here. Right? Yeah. So that's characteristic of a guy like me. I quit forever, but I can't stay quit. And for those who are new, I don't think our mission here is to change you should never drink again. That's not it. That's a side effect. The mission is to change you so you never want to drink again. And I can say that because it happened to me. And it happened to me somewhere in the step work. I think I was in step 4 the last time I wanted to drink. And life has happened since then. I've made way too much money. I've been broke. I've had 2 divorces, one I wanted and one I didn't. My daughter shot herself and survived. She's doing just fine. Talked to her today. I was diagnosed with cancer in my throat. They took my teeth. They did so much radiation to my jawbone. It's dead. It's still here, but it's dead. And I'm now on a liquid diet for the rest of my life. Well, I came to a liquid diet. It's just a different liquid. Through all of that, I have not wanted to drink again. I have not wanted one. And it's because alcohol, and for me, some alcohol. So we used to hear it all the time on what they call tri-addicted. I'm addicted to everything I tried. And so that stuff was never my problem. It was my answer. And be taller, smarter, better looking. So when I put that down, I can't leave it down because it wasn't my problem. It was my answer. That was the lubricant of life. That was why my skin fit. That's why I couldn't put it down. And what happened in the step work, somewhere in there, I picked up a new answer that's better than the old answer. And from that point forward, the old answer has never called my name again. And that's what this whole thing is about. So step 1, powerless over alcohol, life became unmanageable. So I'd ask some questions for those who are new. Let's talk about unmanageable. Did you manage to have a pretty good education presented to you that you didn't get much of? Did you manage to spend money you shouldn't have spent? Did you manage to wreck a vehicle? Did you manage your way into the backseat of a police car or a court of law? Did you manage your way out of a relationship with a very nice person? Did you manage to break your mother's heart? Did you manage to do the things you said you would never do? Okay, so we're on page 60 here. That we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. So we've seen your management skills. We've seen mine. So I have fired me as general manager of my own life based on my performance. Now, a good manager would have fired me maybe 3 decades earlier. And this morning, I re-upped my invitation to the new manager to run my life today. Help me and take me are not the same. I don't ask him to help me. I ask him to take me. It's a whole different perspective. And then B, on page 60, probably no human power could have read alcoholism. Well, who tried? Cops, courts, judges, parents, siblings, psychologists, psychiatrists, treatment facilities, detoxes. You, who tried? None of them were successful. Does it seem logical to you that no human power will be successful in the future? Are A and B true? If they are, we have not established the existence of God. We have established the need. If A and B are true, there better be a loving God, because if there isn't, where's a guy like me going to get help? I'm going to go to page 13. And this is something that was pointed out to me this past year. I've read that page maybe 200 times. And I found something new. I found 2 things new on it. The 11th line on page 13, the last word is friend, capital F. It is the idea of a God that's friendly. That's not what I had been told. Some very well-meaning religious people have been threatening me with God for a long time. God's will, God's will. Can't take step 3 with an angry God. I don't believe it can be done. I'd like to point also down at the bottom of the last paragraph on page 13. Friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my Creator. If you'd asked me a year ago today if I had a relationship with God before I came here, I would have said no, and I would have been wrong. I did have one. It was called 911. See if you recognize any of these pre-AA prayers. God, please help me pass this test I didn't study for. Please don't let her be pregnant. I'm told, ladies, that one can be prayed in the first person. I see you laughing, Annie. Please don't let those flashing red and blue lights be for me. Another very popular one. My personal favorite was around 2 in the morning, where I'm in the bathroom, kneeling on the prayer rug, and we're at the point of the proceedings where there's nothing coming out but noise and occasional tear. And I would pray what I consider the main pre-AA prayer. See if you recognize it. God, get me out of this, and I'll never do it again, which is alcoholic for amen, as I'm sure you know. Now, if you're new and you're not sure you need to be here, we have a 1-question test for you. Did you know the prayer? Stick around. The earthlings don't know the prayer. So page 12, Ebby is sober. he's come to New York City to see his drunken friend Bill Wilson to try to carry a spiritual message. Bill is drunk on gin and is pontificating about the czar of the heavens and universal mind. And as you may recall, gin is perfect for that. The Oxford groups had a very specific idea of who God was. And one of the great experiences I've had, and I know a lot of you have had it too, is when you open your mouth and a piece of the great golden truth that you didn't know falls out. And I think this is the first experience of it, where Ebby says to Bill, and it's in italics, which means it's really, really important. He says, why don't you choose your own conception of God? That is not from the Oxford group. Believe me, it's not. And it's so important on page 93 in the chapter Working with Others, just about 5 lines down, they're going to say the same thing in only slightly different language. He can choose any conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him. I believe that takes the doorknob and the light bulb out of the equation, by the way. And so this is what I do with someone new I'm working with when I get into step 2. So I want you to lay aside what you believe about God. I want you to lay aside what you're trying to believe. I want you to lay aside what they told you. And I don't care how qualified they claim to be. And we're going to do what's working for about 3 million of your closest friends. And that is, I want you to give me a series of single words and very short phrases that describe the individual characteristics you would like for God to have. I'm going to participate. If you like my suggestions, take them. If you don't like them, don't take them. I'm going to have him write this on the inside back cover of his big book. And I want him to read it every night on the way to bed and first thing in the morning every day. And I invite him to change it any times he likes, but he has to tell me. So I say, so give me a word or a short phrase you would like for God to be. Usually forgiving is the first one. I tell him that's not good enough for me. I'm too guilty. I had to have a God that's eager to forgive. So you like that? Write it down. How about loving? How'd you like to have a God that loves you? You like that idea? Good, write it down. How about gentle? Doesn't force me to his will. How about available 100% of the time? Always available. How about generous? How'd you like to have a God that's generous? How would you like to have a God that has a sense of humor? I want a God that laughs and dances. You like that? Write it down. How would you like to have a God that wants what's best for you and knows what it is? Because clearly you don't. Because if you do, how did you get here? No offense, I'm here too. How would you like a God whose will is a good deal? Not what I've been told. How and if and only if I can have all of those, then a God who's powerful. But we can't start there. Can't start there. Many of us come here believing in a God I wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley. We got to put that aside. And I'm going to tell them, I'm not going to ask you to believe this. You can't. I'm going to ask you to test drive it. How do you think you would conduct your life if you believe that? Conduct your life in that manner for a while. We'll just see what happens. I don't want you to fake anything. I'm sick of that word. This is a very honest and straightforward thing. How do you think you would conduct your life if you believe this? Conduct your life that way for a while, and we'll just see what happens. Simple experiment. The scientists call it a working hypothesis. The term means we have reason to believe something may be true. We're not going to apply it in all cases and just see what happens. The reason why I believe that might be true, that's my God. And you must think mine's working. You would not have asked me to sponsor you. Oh, and by the way, I have a 40-year chip in my pocket. But don't try to believe it. You can't. Faith is just hope with a track record. Why don't you hope this is true and test drive it? We'll see what happens. Continuing on page 60, that God could and would if he were sought. Well, the God that we've just described has power. So I say he could and would. Well, he loves me. He wants what's best for me. I say he would if he were sought, not found. Point out to me, God's not lost, does not need to be found. Sought means for me to put energy into an attempt to locate. I just need to put the energy in. Don Pritz, one of my great teachers, I hope you know that name. Do yourself a favor if you don't. He said, God will reveal himself to me as I reveal myself to me. And while we're at it, I want to backtrack just a little bit here to page 46. Two of the most important concepts in the book are on page 46 for me. The last paragraph begins with the word much. If you count up 3 lines above that, it says, it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power, which is God. The book says you can't understand God. Quit trying. my sponsor says the teacup of my mind cannot contain the ocean of God. When we say God, as you understand, we're saying you don't have to believe what anybody else ever told you, and we don't care who they are. The other piece on this page that for me is one of the two most important pieces of news I've ever gotten in my whole life, the two best news I ever got in my life. This is one of them, 5 lines from the bottom. We found that God does not make too hard terms for those who seek him. Let me translate that into Tennessee English for you. God ain't mad at us. Whew. Boy, that's some good news. That's not what they had told me. So back on page 60, the first requirement, there are requirements. There must be more than one if there's a first. Be convinced that a life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Can you see that you've run it into the ground? And I'm going to skip over that. There's way too much to cover, and I know I'm not being thorough. I'm not even trying. Page 61. I'm going to hit the points that I think are really high spots that are easy to miss. Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? Let me translate that into Tennessee English. I'm so insane, I think if I can get what I want, it will make me happy. I failed to notice the tens of thousands of times I got what I wanted was not rendered happy. There's nothing out there I can achieve, acquire, or attain that will make me happy. And yet I find myself happy because it came through this process. And the path to peace and happiness is through trying to be of service. It's an amazing thing. Page 62. Selfishness, self-centeredness, do you think is the root of our troubles? Rarely we've seen a person fail to follow our path. I'm supposed to be on a path. Things with roots don't travel. So this route's going to have to go. Driven by 100 forms of fear. Driven. Not mildly bothered on rare occasion. Driven by 100 forms of fear. Fear is the deep concern I may not get my will at some time in the future. Self-delusion. I believe my own BS. I've only got 2 brain cells left. One of them creates BS. The other one buys it. Self-seeking. I'm full throttle after my will. Self-pity. Poor me, I didn't get my will in the past. Poor me, I'm not getting my will right now. Pour me a drink. At this point, my sponsor said, how would you like some good news? I said, well, I'd like some good news. He said, how would you like the best news you're ever going to get in your entire life? I said, I'm open, babe. Hit me with it. He said, so our troubles we think are basically our own making. I said, was that it? He said, that was it. I said, I don't get it. He said, if the problem really is the cops, the courts, the judges, the Russians, the Chinese, your future ex-wife, her mother, and their lawyer, if those people really are the problem, you lose. The good news is that you, sir, are the problem. If you'll bring some willingness to this party, we can work on that. It did not seem like it to me at the time. I will tell you today. That is one of the 2 best pieces of news I ever got, because the moment I become the problem, there's hope. If they have to move a quarter of an inch, I'm cooked. When I become the problem, there's hope. There is absolutely hope. Willingness, bottom, and surrender all have the same definition. It's when someone who is qualified asks me to do something I don't like, that I don't think will help, that I don't think matters, that I don't want to do, and I do it anyway. Is that do it anyway that defines bottom, willingness, and surrender. And I need to have that today every bit as much as I needed to have it 40 years ago. Critically important. I'm going to skip down a little ways just because I have so much to cover. This is the how and the why. But first of all, we had to quit playing God. They give us kind of a mediocre reason. It didn't work. Do you know the first rule of horse cavalry? The first rule of horse cavalry is when the horse is dead, dismount. You rode in here on a dead horse. We're trying to talk you to get off of it. That's what we're trying to present to you here. Next, we decided. So here's this decision. Step 3, my sponsor said, is not where we turn our will and life over to God, over the care of God. It's where you decide to. The English verb to decide comes from the Latin verb scisere, which means to cut. A surgeon makes an incision. He cuts in. I make a decision. I cut away and act upon the decision I have made. That's what the word means. But here's the decision called for in the short form of the step. He said if we could, in fact, turn our will and life over to God at step 3, we'd have a 3-step program. What can be left after that? So the directions for accomplishing that decision are numbered 4 through 12. Having had a spiritual awakening sounds a lot like will and life turned over to the care of God. Yeah. Next, we decided here after this drama life, God's going to be our director. He's the principal. We're his agents. He's the father. We're his children. That's what it looks like. That's simply what it looks like. Then we have a prayer. God, I offer myself to thee. Not help me, take me. Help me and take me are not the same prayer. Build with me. Sometimes to build, we got to tear down something that's there already. There'll be some tearing down. If you're new, some things you'd like to keep are leaving. They're not coming back. Some things you don't like are coming and they're going to stay. 2 bowling balls. My will, God's will, pick one. Yeah, I don't want to work God too hard. Why don't I cover sex and money? He can get the rest. No, it's a package deal. 2 bowling balls, pick one. Continuing with the prayer, to do with me as thou wilt, relieve me of the bondage. I look it up, means slavery. I've been a slave to self all of my life. May better do thy will. Take away my difficulties. It goes on to say, so that I can be useful to other people. I've read this book quite a few times. I can give you 5 page numbers that talk about recovery is going to be fun. I can give you 5 that say some of what I know for sure ain't so. I can give you 4 more. We already did 1 that say that I create my own trouble. The single thing that runs wider and deeper than any others is help others be of service. There are over 50 references to it before you get to Dr. Bob's story. It's the one theme that runs wider and deeper through all of them. I don't have time really to even much touch on step 4. I hope what I can do here is demystify and de-fear the 3 most frightening steps when I was new, 4, 5, and 9. Those were the ones I was the most terrified of. It was obvious to me when I was new, when I read them the first time, they were designed to punish me for being the rotten guy I had been. I was wrong about that. If you're new, you're probably wrong about it too. I had to quit believing what I think. Don't know about you. There was a time way back when I thought I could quit drinking anytime I wanted to. Didn't you have one of those? And here we are. What that establishes is that some of what I think is actually incorrect. So when I came to you in the summer of 1984, one of my problems was what I didn't know. My biggest problem was what I knew for sure that was actually wrong. And when I was able to release my grip on the things I thought I knew for sure is when my recovery really began. Release your grip on your belief on what these steps you haven't taken are about. You could be wrong. I was. The most important thing I want to tell you about step 4, a couple of things. One is get a sponsor that's already done it and let that sponsor coach you through it. The directions I'm doing in step 4 have been very cleverly concealed in this book, starting on page 66 and 64 and running through the end of the chapter. Just do it a sentence at a time and do what it says till it's done. Fairly simple. You have my permission to do a lousy 4-step. Just get out there and do a terrible one. Because if you have to do the perfect 4-step, you can't pick up the pen. And most of us think we can't do anything and we can't do it perfectly. So I should let you know we are not saving a special alcove in Akron at the AA Hall of Fame for your 4-step. The other thing I would tell you is we do not give a trophy every year for the best 4-step. And this is the trophy you are not going to get. I don't know if the thing turned it around. It says 4-step trophy never awarded. This is the trophy you ain't getting. So quit worrying about it and get in there and do a lousy one. Because the fact is, if you're serious, if you're one of the ones that are really going to do this, in less than a year, you'll be taking someone else through this work. And when you take them through, you'll go with them. If we miss some things, you'll get them then. You'll get the big pieces now, and that's good enough. I give you an overview of step 4. It is a series of lists, observations, and prayers. They cover 3 specific aspects of self, which are resentment, fear, and sexual misconduct. When I first read it, I thought it said, write the story of your life and be sure to write down every rotten thing you ever did. And it doesn't say that. It does not say that. Many times, the worst things you've ever done are not going to be on your 4-step. They're going to be on 5, but they're not going to be on 4. The resentment inventory is simply a series of lists. A list is a series of words and phrases that run down a page, by the way. Lists are not horizontal, they're vertical. Got a couple of columns here. Some fabulous observations on page 66. If you'll start with a paragraph that begins with, it is plain, and take those sentences and turn them into questions all the way down the page, I think you will find that the action in the resentment portion of step 4 lies between the 3rd and 4th columns. And it's not about writing. It is the observations and prayers that will change your life. I think probably the most important thing I've done in my whole life My sponsor believed, page 164, by the way, and I'm going to give you a quotation from 164. It says, God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. And he believed that happened to a woman named Wynne Laws, who wrote the story Freedom from Bondage. And he included in the 4-step the prayers on page 552, and they changed my life. What I discovered was that forgive is not something I could do, something I had to open myself up to receive. I hope that's enough bait for you to try it. I think you'll find it's an astonishing thing. And when I received the gift of not hating them anymore, it changes me. I would talk very briefly about fear. A lady in my home group told the story of standing in line in a bank, and all of a sudden there's a hairy arm around her throat and a pistol in her ear. She was a hostage in a bank robbery. And she said as she thought about it later, as she stood there, she was physically uncomfortable, not free to go about her business, but she was really okay. Her fear was that he would shoot her or that he would kidnap her. Her fears were all in the future, and that's when I got it. My fears are all in the future. So it's critically important for me to stay in today. Keep my mind here where my feet are. My mind wants to race off into the past, reliving victories, some of which may have actually happened, or off into the future, trying to figure it all out, plan B and plan C, and what if this, what if that, and I'm rarely between the clamps, right here, right now. And yet right here, right now, is where all the action is. It's where you beautiful people are. And according to the book, there's one who has all power that one is God may find him now. My God is a God of right now. That's the problem with the past and the future is I don't believe God's there. That'd be a bad definition. I'm sorry, a bad neighborhood by definition. We review our sexual misconduct, and I like to call it a sexual misconduct inventory. I don't see a sex inventory here. I see a sexual misconduct inventory. There are several approaches to step 5. There is one school in AA that says you do the first 9 steps once and then you stay sober on 10, 11, 12. I'm not of that school. And there is a school that says step 5 is read me your 4-step. I am not of that school. That's not how I was raised. And this is what I found on page 75. So I will not let him schedule my newcomer, schedule step 5 until he's completed 4. I won't let him bash himself into finishing 4 because he has 5 scheduled. It's a bad mindset. We schedule it. We sequester. The doors are closed and locked. The phones are turned off. We got water. We got a bathroom. We got tissue. We invite God to the process as we did beginning this one. I ask him to pray for clarity of mind and courage to say it. And I will pray as I did before this one for God to make me perfect. Page 13 says I can do that. It actually recommends it. About 8 lines on the bottom of page 13. Never was I to pray for myself, except as my request bore my usefulness to others. Then only might expect to receive, but that would be in great measure. And I ask God to make me perfect as I sit to hear the 5th step. I asked him this morning when I started with you to do that because he knows what needs to be said and I don't. And I asked him to make me perfect, and I think he does. Not so I can take a bow, but so I can be a good tool in his hand. And when we come out of the prayer, actually, before we start, asking him, are you nervous? If it's his first 5th step and he says he's not nervous, I say, we're wasting our time because you've already decided what you're not going to tell me. And they usually explode when you do that. If it's his first 5th step, I want him nervous. If he's nervous, he's either decided to tell me or he's not sure. I'm good with either one. I'll get it out of him. So we come out of the prayer. I say, okay, tell me right now the worst thing you ever done. I want the worst one now. And it backs them up. And they tell me. And I tell them when I did that. The worst one for a heterosexual male is either a homosexual experience or a series of experiences or an abortion. It's almost always one of those two, and I have both of those. So I talked to him about when I did that. And I say, okay, tell me the second worst thing you ever did. I tell him when I did that. What's the third? And eventually we'll hit one I haven't done and say, I haven't done that, but I've heard it before. It's no big deal. What's the next one? And we do that till he can't think of anymore. Then we'll consult his 4th step. I want the 4th column and not read it to me. Consult the 4th column of resentment inventory, consult the fear, consult the sexual misconduct inventory, see if we missed anything. And then I read him the 5th step promises here in the middle of page 75. And you can read them. I'm not gonna. I tell him I forgive him. I believe God forgives him. By the time he's finished his 9th step, he will have forgiven himself. If you're new, looking for self-forgiveness, that's where it comes. It came from me in 9. And that's been my experience with everyone I've worked with. That's where it is. And I would, well, I'll get to that here in a moment. And then I send him home. I read him the second half of step 5, which is the bottom of 75, where it talks about going home and reviewing for an hour. It says, take your book down from the shelf. I tell him, I want you to go home, put your book up on the shelf, has to be shoulder higher, so you can take it down from the shelf. I'm ridiculous about this kind of thing. And it's been absolute magic. I tell him I get a phone call typically half the time, something you just missed. It won't mean you've done a bad job. Just call me when you can talk. Something may bubble up over the next day or two. Don't worry about it. Happens all the time. Call me. It was where I get my first relief when I was new. I had completed this psychobabble alleged 4-step this treatment center had. And I called back down to the treatment center. Bernie was not my counselor. He's a counselor down there. And I see I'm going to have to do this confession thing at step 5. And I may get back to that and I may not. I see a lot of people. Oh, and by the way, the 5th steps are taking around about an hour and 20, an hour and 30 minutes. I've had one run 2 hours and 20 minutes since I've been doing it this way. And I hear about 5th steps running for days. The wrong person's in charge. It will take this newcomer forever to go through stealing the candy bar from the convenience store to get to the abortion or the homosexual experience. It'll take him forever if he ever gets there. If we knock the big ones out first, the rest of it falls really fast. It's really served me well. Anyway, I went and I went down and did my 5th step with Bernie, and which is where I began to get relief. If I'm doing the actual steps, to be the ones out of this book, with an actual sponsor, someone's already done out of this book, I would have gotten relief way before then. But that's where the magic is in the step work. Meetings are important. But my sponsor said, if sitting around with a bunch of other alcoholics talking about problems going to get people sober, the guys on the Woodland Street Bridge would be sober right now. He said, hanging around a bunch of AA meetings wanting more get you into recovery than moving into the garage, turn you into a 57 Chevy. Same odds. Here are the steps we took. We got to go through the magic. So it instructs him to go home for an hour and review. Sit quietly with God for an hour and review. And then, strangely enough, we do step 6 immediately, asking ourselves, am I ready for God to have it all? If not, there's a 6-step prayer, ask for the help, and then there's a 7th-step prayer. So steps 5, 6, and 7 are taken the same day. We're on 8 tomorrow. The 7th-step prayer, strangely enough, does not ask God to take away all my character defects, just the ones that stand in the way of my usefulness. Interesting. My first experience with that, I had taken this 5th step with a counselor treatment center. I'm still unsponsored, sober 3 to 4 months. And a week or two after that, I don't remember, I'm in bed asleep. I'm lying on my bed. My wife's asleep next to me. And I'm talking to God like I'm talking to you. And it's like I'm floating in this love and I'm surrounded by it. There simply aren't words for what was going on. It was such a magnificent experience to be so immersed in that much love. And I get this tremendous feeling of how much he loved me, how good he was, how good his will was. And I said to him, please, give me the hardest training I can stand and make the most out of me that you can. That was my 6th and 7th step, although I didn't know it. I will tell you, I've had times I wish I had not done that. Some of this training has been tough, but I believe I've needed all of it, and he's used it all. And the simple fact is, I don't have the power to make mistakes so ugly that he can't turn it into something magnificent. When I told those first 2 things to that counselor at the treatment center, because I told him the whole truth. I talked about my homosexual experiences, and I talked about the abortion. I was sure they would never see the light of day. And here I am talking to all of you people being recorded. We talk about a new freedom. The old freedom was 4 shots of Cuervo Gold and I come out and play. The new freedom is I'm happy, joyous, and free. And I'm not worried about what you're going to find out about me. I've already told you. Nothing gaining on me. Nothing coming up behind me. I've already told you. It is such a phenomenal freedom. Step 8 is simply a list. And if you can't tell me how you hurt them, you can take them off the list. I've spoken at a lot of conferences, and several times I've had individuals come up to me in another city, somebody I've never seen before. Say, "Oh, you're an amend." I said, "Okay." And they say, "I used to think you were a total jerk, but now that I met you, I don't think you're near as bad as a jerk as I thought you were, and I'd like to apologize." Does that sound like an amend to anybody? Yeah. So now when someone does that to me, I say, "Okay, first tell me how you harmed me." "Well, I didn't harm you." "Well, then you don't owe me an amend." For me, it's that simple. It's a list of people you have harmed. Page 77. Our real purpose, I'm 3 lines down. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be maximum service to God and people about us. So clearly, my real purpose is not to be a maximum service to God and people about me. It's to fit myself to be of. I have no idea how to be a maximum service. Fit myself, I know exactly how. Do these 12 steps. Daily prayer and meditation, reading spiritual literature, sponsoring, being sponsored, going to meetings, taking meetings into jails and prisons and treatment centers, letting people in traffic, saying please and thank you, trying to be a good dad. I know how to do this. The master craftsman reaches for the best tool laying the closest to his hand. My job is to be the best tool I can be and reside as close to his hand as I can. And then he uses me as he sees fit. And I don't have to figure it out. So he's got his list. Let's talk about the first 10 on the list. Which one do you want to do first? And let's talk about what that amend is. And we're not asking you at step 9 to turn your will and life over to somebody who may be in love with hating you. I sponsored a guy that was. And if you'd gone to make amends to him before he got sober, he would have bashed you for the rest of your life if you'd allowed it. So the person receiving an amend is not final authority on what the amend is. My sponsee and I are prayerfully in God's presence. We need to hear what he thinks it is, but he don't get to say. If it's financial, I think you need to come. If you owe him $1,000, show up at 10, show up with 100. If you're sure you can pay him 100 a month, promise 50 and pay 100. Under promise, over deliver. It's a new concept for most of us. If I could tell the entire fellowship a single thing, it's this piece right here. Lady friend of mine in another state was working with a woman who had prostituted herself. Most of us don't need to be on our own amends list, but she needed to be on this. This is an exception to that. And what they came up with was that she figured out how much money she had made like that. And she went out and earned that much money legitimately and donated that money to Magdalene House and some other similar charities. And what she said was, "I sold my self-esteem. I'm buying it back." I wish I could tell the whole fellowship that. Please pass that on. Please pass that on. God can use the worst things we've ever done to still help other people. That's a powerful God. I hear people say, there's a term that bothers me very much, and what you're doing is okay with me. And the term is living amends. I don't believe in it. I was going to make living amends, which is to say, I'm going to be a good guy and that's good enough. And it's not. And my amends to my children are complete. I have a boy and a girl. I went to them individually. We talked about it. I asked for their forgiveness. They gave it. I received it. Today, I'm trying to be the best father I can be. It's not 9-step work, it's 12. Spiritually awakened men who have children try to be good fathers. And if I think it's 9-step work, I have not accepted their forgiveness or God's of my own, and I have work to do. I do not believe in living amends. And if you're doing them, it's okay with me. But I hope you'll take a look at what I just said. It's not 9-step work. I made amends to that unborn child. This is page 83. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter. I was shown how to do that. I heard this the other day and I love it. My tears are the holy water that wash the windows of my soul. Writing a letter to an unborn child was a powerful experience for me. And through that process, I cried quite a bit. I'd like to recommend, if you can't cry, don't do this, because it's the tears that are so effective, not the writing. If you can't cry, you'd like to learn to cry, I will put my contact information in the chat here in a few minutes. Contact me. I had to be taught to cry. When I got to you, I couldn't cry. I was taught. I can teach you, and I would love to. And I completed this letter. I thought I was finished. I was told to sign it, love, Dad. I cried again. And these days, what I do is I burn them. I have the people burn the letter, not to destroy it, but to send it in smoke. And we get free. Please note, I'm free. I talked about homosexual experience. Between that and the abortion, two worst things I ever did. And yet my demeanor does not change today as I talk about them. Why? Because I got free. I found a way to get free. If any of you gentlemen have got this homosexual experience hanging over your head and it's killing you, call me. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. I've heard over 100 fist steps from heterosexual males. I've only heard 6 that did not have that. I've got a friend that's heard over 200. He hadn't heard one yet. I've also worked with several gay men, and what twisted them up was trying to have heterosexual experiences. So I'm not judging anyone here. I'm simply saying this is how I got free. And if you're suffering from the same thing I was suffering from, I can help you get free. A lady friend of mine with over 50 years, I asked her one time, and she said in the females, it runs about 80%. So don't be concerned about it, okay? Just come on out here and let's get in the game. It's absolute magic what goes on here. As far as making the amend, I tell the men I sponsor, I don't want you to take the 4th breath when you're making amends. You get 3 breaths and that's all. Your mother does not need to hear your fifth step. Here's amends to Mom. I was not as good a son to you as I could have been. I know I broke your heart, but I'm living a better life today and I'm cleaning up my past. I'd like to make amends to you. I'd like to repair the damage. Can you tell me how? End of discussion. If she needs to talk about it, absolutely, I got to listen. She does not need to hear my fifth step. This is a gift from Miss Linda, who was my second wife. I hope you've heard her. Linda Q, Al-Anon speaker. Listen to some of her talks. She's got some great stuff. And I got this one from her. She called it good amends. She said, you're pretty much aware of your sins of commission, things you did that hurt people. What you didn't see is the sins of omission. Who deserved to be thanked by you that you never thanked? Or who deserved more thanks than they got? I went back to my first instructor pilot, who realized immediately that I was one of the gifted ones, and he didn't let me coast. He worked me hard. And because of that, he set up my Air Force career. I never finished lower than second in anything driving an airplane in 5 years as an Air Force pilot because of what he did for me in my first 30 hours. Went back and thanked him for that. I went back and thanked my major professor in college. I'd never graduate without him. He changed my life. I went back and thanked him for that and told him so. I did the amends with my mother I just told you about. And at a different time, many years later, I went to her and I said, I need to thank you. You were such a great mom for me. Thank you for your love. Thank you for all of your sacrifice. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for your pain. Thank you for the suffering I put you through. Thank you for all I learned from you. Thank you. You were a great mom for me. I'll never be able to thank you. And then I went home and wrote that to her in longhand. I wrote her a letter. It was about a page and a half, and I mailed it to her. My mother died in a nursing home of Alzheimer's, and she didn't have much left. Let me tell you something. She had that letter. And I ask you, who do you owe amends to? Who do you owe thanks to that never heard it? Who do you owe? I think the most important thing I would tell you about step 9 is don't start there. The steps have been numbered so geniuses like us don't try to take them out of order. Step 9 requires 2 things. The first 9 steps and adult supervision. Okay? Do yourself a favor and don't start there. Don't start there. You're going to make a mess, not an amend. I did. I know what I'm talking about here. Step 10, and there's some discussion in the fellowship about this. And once again, this is just me. To me, step 10 is about being present in my own life, moment by moment. Step 11 is a morning and an evening prayer. Step 10 lays between them and is about being present in my own life, moment by moment. There are people who refer to their evening inventory as step 10. I do not see that. To me, the evening inventory is step 11. Because if that's step 10, where's the part where you stay present in your own life, moment by moment? In the reading on page 84 in step 10, it uses the word continue 4 times in the first paragraph. It's about being here. And I think there's a slogan that applies to step 10. And the slogan is easy does it. I've got to slow down. The hardest assignment I've ever been given is one day at a time, is to just be here. All the good questions contain the word today, and all the good answers contain the word today. I got to quit trying to fix the rest of my life. It's not my assignment. So example, the question is not, what am I doing about my finances? It's the wrong question. Question, what am I doing with my finances today? What am I going to do about my relationship? No. What are you about it today? Can you feel the difference in the power in those questions? Get back into today and stay here. Get between the claps and stay here. It's a big deal. The easy does it is also difficult for a guy like me. I'm Mach 2 with my hair on fire. I am ricocheting around like a golf ball hitting a bathroom all the time. And I've got to slow down. And if I wait till 11 o'clock at night to look for the mistake I made at 7:30 in the morning, promptly is already out of the equation. But it tells me to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. We're going to see that list in several other places. Selfishness. I'm wide open after my will. I'm not thinking about you at all. Dishonesty. I'm willing to lie, cheat, steal to get my will. Resentment. I'm angry because I didn't get my will at some time in the past. Fear. I have a deep concern I may not get my will at some time in the future. Can you hear the common denominator? These are about the reemergence of self-will, in effect. And it says when these crop up. It's not say if. This is not a when question. Sandy Beach was one of my great teachers. I hope you know that name. He was not talking about relapse when he said, the measure of my recovery is not whether I get off the path. We all get off the path. Measure my recovery is how quickly I get back on. My sponsor, Rusty, who I'll refer to here later, said, I'm not responsible for what I think. I'm responsible for how long I think it. I can't keep garbage from showing up here. When it gets dirty up here, I can sweep. That is my responsibility. Boy, that was freeing. So some of you heard me tell this story, but I was sitting by a stream not too long ago, and I saw a cloud. And I thought, every drop of rain, that cloud's falling God's will perfectly. So's the tree, so's the bird in the tree, so the minnows in the stream. Why can't I? It was hard on me. Why can't I? I got my answer. The answer is, I am. I do not believe God put me here to be perfect. If you think you're supposed to be perfect, good luck. But if I'm not supposed to be perfect, what's my assignment? It's to make mistakes. It's why I'm here. It's why I was put in this skin. I have no idea what God's plan is. His will is for me to screw up because I'm not supposed to be perfect. So a mistake is an invitation to a lesson. Evidence is, I learned a lesson would not have made a mistake. That's all it is. It's just an invitation to a lesson. And I can't make a mistake so ugly, he can't turn it into wonderful. We already established that. There's a pretty good chance he has used the 2 worst things I've ever done to touch some lives today, right here during this hour. So here's the learning process to understand it today. 1, make mistake. 2, be notified of a mistake. I don't always know. 3, own a mistake. Oh, yeah, fellas, that was me. I did that. If they only know 80%, I got to tell them the rest of it. 4, consult a spiritual advisor about how to 5, make the amend. Usually, not always, there's an amend to be made. 6, embrace the lesson. The lesson comes from making the amend, not with the making of the mistake. All my life, they say, well, we learn from our mistakes. It's not true. If we learn from our mistakes, I'm not looking at anybody's been arrested more than once. Good luck. No, people like me do not learn from our mistakes. We learn from living with the results of our mistakes. I'm like the dog that went on the rug. He learned nothing. When do you start learning? When you rubbed his nose in it. Me and the dog have that in common. We prefer to have our nose rubbed in it. That's how we learn. So making the amend is what gives me the lesson. 7, share the lesson is what really sets it. 8, when I share the lesson, I have to tell you I made the mistake. If I just share the lesson, I'm preaching and nobody wants to hear it. When I stand as a sinner beside a sinner, he can hear me. 9, make the next mistake. We talk about progress. Progress is making the same old mistake a little less often, or making a new and finer quality of mistake. Anything beyond that's perfection, and that's not my assignment. I think God put me here to make mistakes. So I have my own permission to make mistakes. You just heard what I do with them. I'm current on that. But that's only half the freedom. The other half is you have my permission to make mistakes. That includes all the men I sponsor, all of my family members. It includes major political leaders in my country and other countries. It includes those of you who got your driver's licenses out of Cheerios boxes. Everybody has my permission to make mistakes. Because if I'm going to be upset by what you do, I'm a prisoner of your behavior. I don't want to be a prisoner anymore. You have my permission to screw up. Get out there and get them. Have a good time. Because I believe that's God's will for us. If we will go through this process and embrace the lessons. Because the evidence on this mistakes and imposition of lesson, if I'd already learned the lesson, I would not have made a mistake. That's how I know that's accurate. That's how it is for me. Page 85. It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action, rest in our Lord. Easy to let up must require effort to not let up. Had we're told if we do alcohol is a self-love, we're not cured. A daily reprieve. A reprieve is a stay of execution or delay of punishment. If a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition, it's not contingent on my spiritual condition. I don't know what my spiritual condition is. I'm not qualified to judge it. Because spiritual condition is what I receive. It's contingent on the maintenance of it. Maintenance means two things: to maintain the sense of not losing anything I've already got. It also means I must maintenance my spiritual condition in the same sense that I maintenance my vehicle. I rotate the tires. I got the right pressure on them. I vacuum it out. I wash it. I change the oil on time. I maintenance my spiritual condition, daily prayer and meditation, reading spiritual literature, attending meetings, sponsoring, being sponsored, letting people in traffic, saying please and thanks, doing these things you've taught me to have a healthy spiritual condition. So for me, the evening half of step 11 is to see how my maintenance was on my spiritual condition today. That's what it comes down to for me. On page 86, we retire at night, we're constructively already, or we're resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid. That list sounds vaguely familiar. I'm just going to hit a couple of more points here as I'm running very thin on time. It asks about packing into the stream of life. My sponsor defined anonymity is doing something good for somebody else and not getting caught. That's what it is. Do good for them and don't get caught. Further down, it says that my thinking be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, self-seeking motive. Divorce is a strong word. I'm divorced from someone I once loved. Didn't I once love self-pity? Golly, poor me. As long as it's their fault and nothing I can do, poor me, I love that. Dishonesty, I didn't love that. I love what it got me. Self-seeking motives, yeah, baby. That's my story. That's where I come from. The fact is, good motives are the most evil things ever come to planet Earth. Far and away. Far and away. There's a guy in Moscow, Russia today who believes he had a good motive for starting a war. Good motive is a very dangerous thing. Page 60 tells me I can't trust my motive. It says, on that basis, almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. That's why step 12 is not saying had good motives in all our affairs. Principle always trumps motive. Motive governs outcome irrespective of action. Motive says I can lie, cheat, steal to make it come out the way I know it should come out. It's one of the ways I play God. It's literally playing God when I trust my motive. It's good to have good motives, but I can't trust them. Principle governs action irrespective of outcome. We talk about turning it over to God. What do we turn over? It's the result. How do we do that? One, I stand today where he is. Two, operate within his principles. The 12 traditions are a set of principles designed to protect A from my very best motives. That's what they do. I've discovered the source of all anger comes from being sure I'm right. Never had been angry while I'm all settled certain I was right. And being right comes from having passed judgment. After judge to be right to be angry. So judgment is anger's grandmother. And it's the real problem. That's why I can't work on my anger. It's a symptom. The problem is I judge. And I don't believe God put me here to judge. That came to me clear about 11 years ago. And I added to my morning prayer, bless me, please. I do not judge any situations or any people. Also be sure that I don't judge my own motive. Because if I think I have a good motive and you oppose me, you clearly have a bad motive and you're a bad person and I hate you. I don't want to go down that road anymore. I see a lot of people doing it these days in politics. It's a bad deal. So I pray not to judge. Page 87 at the bottom. As we go through the day, we pause. It says pause when agitated or doubtful. They don't usually read the doubtful thing. So I'm an alcoholic. I'm not right very often, but I'm very seldom in doubt. Pause when agitated. I believe God's waiting patiently for me in the pause. Father, I've judged again. I'm angry. Please take away this judgment and anger and grant me sadness and love. I claim to serve the God of love, and it's a full-time job. I don't get any moments off. And when I get to anger, I violated that. Sadness and love travel well together. When I can go back into any given situation with sadness and love, the sadness and love open my heart and theirs. And I don't wind up making amends. When I go back in there angry with judgment, it gets ugly and I wind up making amends. And I don't like making amends. And sadness and love travel well together. I know I've missed a tremendous amount here on all of these steps. 12. Having had a spiritual, the most powerful promise in the book for me, promised me a spiritual awakening as the result. Hear people read A result, it's not what it says. A is one of several, one of many. The is singular. Promised me one thing as the result of these steps, spiritual awakening. It's been my experience that spiritual awakening alcoholics do not drink beverage alcohol, and they don't ever want to. If you're new, somewhere in this work, and my experience has been somewhere between the beginning of step 2 and the end of 9, somewhere in there something happens, and the alcoholic is awakened spiritually, and they're rendered unthirsty. There was a moment this morning I was asleep. The very next moment I was awake. When I stepped out of the shower, I was more awake. When I finished my first cup of coffee, I was more awake. Spiritual awakening to me is of that nature, and there's no last awakening. I've had some major ones in the last few weeks, big things. I've been doing this a long time, but I can go back to sleep spiritually. Yeah, I don't want to bother my sponsor with that. I need to get some balance in my life. I think I'll cut back on my meetings. And everybody cheats on their taxes. And I can go back to sleep spiritually. Page 164. There are 2 fellowships referenced in our book. Fellowship of AA that you're in. When you say you're an alcoholic, you're an AA, you are. End of discussion. There's a second fellowship reference twice. It's referenced to step 10. It's a reference on page 164. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults, admit to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. Fellowship of the Spirit has different entrance requirements. They look to me like the steps in narrative form. In my 40 years, I've seen 2 people I knew for certain did the 12 steps out of this book in depth go out again. Only 2. I sponsored them both. One of them married his new higher power, and she didn't like how much time he spent with us. We say, I wonder how she likes him now. Well, that news was in the legal notices in the newspaper not too long after that, when he went back out and she divorced him. He's back now. I saw him getting a 15-year chip a couple of months ago. The other one's a hotel manager. He started running a dude ranch in Arizona, 40 miles from nearest me, and quit going. 2 years later, he drank for 2 weeks. Today, he's sober over 20 years. So, only 2 people I know for sure did what's in this book and went back out. And this is what I say. I've seen a lot of members of the Fellowship of AA drink again. But these 2 guys allowed their membership in the Fellowship of the Spirit to lapse. And when that membership lapsed, they relapsed. When they re-upped their membership in the Fellowship of the Spirit, they got healthy again. And neither one was having any trouble staying sober. It's where the magic is. Page 57. At the very top. Save for a few brief moments of temptation, the thought of drink is never returned. Such times a great revulsion of risen up in him, simply he could not drink and be with God to restore his sanity. It's one of 2 places that promises me sanity. This is a gift from my sponsor, Rusty. Now, at the end of his drinking, he was drinking mouthwash mixed with Kool-Aid, and he wet his pants so many times his zipper rusted shut, and we nicknamed him Rusty in honor of the zipper. And he loved his nickname. You're lucky in AA if you get a nickname you like. He loved his. This is what he said. He said, in the history of this planet, no human has ever been put in an insane asylum for being insane. Never. They put us in there for acting insane. They've always been let out for being sane. They let us out for acting sane. So on those days when you're crazy, if you don't act on it, they won't know. Don't tell them they're not ready. Pick up the phone. Tell one of us we're ready and we're not all crazy on the same day. That might be the best piece of advice I've ever gotten. I would like to thank the God of my very limited understanding, this generous, laughing, loving God I talked about. We invited him. This has been a very fast hour for me. If you borrowed my God in that quiet time and you got touched, do it again. If you invited your God, start doing that at all the meetings. I think what you'll find is the meetings are going to get better. everywhere you go. I was in one of the gated communities years ago, and one of them read this to me. Yeah, that's a state prison. Bottom of page 457. From experience, I've realized I cannot go back and make a brand new start, but through AA, I can start from now and make a brand new end. That's what this whole thing is about. It's about me becoming the man that little boy would have been. I love you all my heart. I'm out of time.